I made this game in a week, and the theme for the game was spin to win.
Huh?
Some initial ideas came to mind. Obviously gambling, which I do not condone, but it's a solid, albeit easy choice for a game jam game. That did make me think of a game show type of game with a big wheel of prizes. I could have called it something like Wheel of Fortuna. Blah 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 blah. Some other ideas that didn't go anywhere was something about windmills. I don't know, I guess I'm just a big fan. Or some game about Spain, and calling it Spain to win. I don't know what I was thinking either. So I really needed an inspired, original, groundbreaking concept for the game. I needed to do something that no other indie game dev has done before. Which is why I made a 2D puzzle platformer. Gasp! The main idea is that you can spin different parts of the level, which then affects other parts of the level, which then helps you complete the puzzles in the level. I was very much inspired by the Flash games I played growing up, very cool math games vibes, very hiding in the corner of the classroom to secretly play games on my laptop. Not that you should do that if you're a student. Learn your adjectives. Anyway, game dev. Like all games, we start with a prototype to make the most basic game mechanics, so that's rotating a platform towards wherever the mouse cursor goes. This works, so that's great, but it's feeling a little empty, so I used a line renderer component to connect these 2 points, so that it's a bit easier for the player to actually understand what's happening. Then the next part was making this not look like a texturing error, so I began drawing some sprites. A lot of my previous game art has very smooth lines, which I do like, but I wanted to go very slightly different this time around and use a more hand-drawn, crayon-y type of brush. It's not a massive difference or anything, but I think it looks nice. I also drew the player character, whom I love so very much. This is Catthew. He is a very serious business cat. He is dressed up in his fancy work attire, inspired by a popular and universally liked public figure. Fellow content creator Juniper Dev, who makes fantastic YouTube videos, and she was hosting this event which I made this very serious game for. And I can't believe that I haven't made a game about a cat before. I love cats so much. They are so goofy, and they are so silly. This is my cat. His name is Cat. No, his name is Shadow. We got a prototype with some nice graphics, and that's great. So now I needed to create some different level assets to make the puzzles. This moving platform was probably the easiest thing to make. The way this works is that there are 2 points in space which the platform can move between, based on the direction that this gear is being spun. So clockwise moves it towards one point, whereas counterclockwise goes towards the other. This works the same for rotating platforms, except the gears will smoothly change between 2 angles. Each of the platforms are only linked to one gear, but a single gear can affect multiple platforms at once, which can hopefully lead to some fun puzzling and level design. And I just talked a lot without including any jokes, so here's a cat meme. What I like about these platforms as well is that they can also be spun, again for theming, spin to win. So when Catthew jumps on these platforms, it already makes for a fun obstacle, because his chunky little body will push the platform down in the other direction. Because gravity. Although understanding that you can actually do this in the game might be a little unintuitive, and I didn't want the player to get entirely stuck at a level and not know what to do. So I had to do some critical thinking. Basically what this means is that a good level can teach the player how to solve it without telling the player how to solve it. You feed the player small pieces of knowledge in a safe and low stakes environment, and then later ask them to apply that knowledge in a slightly more demanding situation. This is pretty much how Mario games are designed. I'm not sure if you've heard of this series, but yeah, it's the fact that you can start with easy jumps and simple enemies, and by the end of the level, you're doing these same actions, but it's made to feel more difficult. The game doesn't punish you early on because you're still learning, but it prepares you to master these mechanics later on in the level or even later in the game. So how did I do this in my game? Well, firstly, there are some easy blocks to jump over, just so the player knows how to move. Then we have a green platform that Catthew can jump onto, but this doesn't help him climb the ledge. Instead, there is this gear that is also coloured green, so it must be connected to the platform, with some arrows to guide the player that this gear is interactable. By doing this, I avoided any obnoxious tutorial text or pop-ups, and this hopefully makes the player feel like they're figuring things out on their own. Again, there hasn't been any jokes in the video for a while, so here's another cat meme. The same gear is then used for the next section, which introduces rotating platforms, but you have to spin the gear in the opposite direction, showing that these can be used both ways. And if you happen to fail this tiny jump like an absolute loser, you will be immediately respawned so that you don't lose any progress. Next, you're faced with that physicsy rotating platform I talked about earlier. It's faced away from the player, teaching them that they have to spin the platform itself to get across, and that these are affected when you stand on them. The following section expands on this idea because you need to hold up the platform to jump across. Then the final challenge in this level is a bit of a logic puzzle, because it's not too tricky to spin these gears in the right way. The purple one you have to do a bit of back and forth, but it's the next section that makes you think a bit more, because you have to figure out how to rotate these platforms to make a bridge. With the arrow as a bit of a hint, you go backwards to spin these gears again to then line up the platforms. Then all you gotta do is jump onto the final spinning wheel, and Catthew can collect his very important business briefcase. Yippee. Now, it's pretty clear that Catthew is a seriously sophisticated business cat, and even with his very serious business belongings, there is one thing missing from his repertoire, and that is today's video sponsor, Odoo. It's an all-in-one business management platform that has an app for everything, with over 45 interconnected applications to help your projects thrive. If you've ever tried managing a project using 5 different tools, a wall of sticky notes, and a panicked group chat, Odoo will become your best friend. With Odoo, you can make a project from scratch, add custom stages, and break tasks down into subtasks so that your big scary projects become a bunch of tiny, manageable ones. You can assign people, set priorities, add deadlines, tag things, and even write descriptions with text, tables, images, videos, and checklists. Collaboration is also baked directly into the platform. You can send emails, add notes, tag colleagues, attach files, and schedule activities, all from one clean interface. Long are the days of hunting through 12 tabs trying to trace your tangled tasks. Odoo transforms it into one terrific, trouble-free task tracking toolkit. You can also choose how you'd like to view your projects. Kanban View lets you drag tasks around like sticky notes, List View gives you everything in one neat table, and Gantt View shows your timeline, dependencies, and planned dates. Odoo's first app is free for life with unlimited hosting and support. So if you want to make your workflow less chaotic, check out Odoo using the link below. And thank you Odoo for sponsoring this video. Before creating more levels, I needed to make some kind of way to access these levels. This is where I designed the hub world to firstly act as a title screen with my shameless social media links and basic player controls. We'll get to what this M key means soon. But this also functions as a level select screen. The main idea is that you just jump into a very serious business item to get transported into the level. Again, this is very Mario of me. Because I was making this game for the very serious Juniper Dev Game Jam, I also wrote a grueling, life-changing storyline. Basically, Catthew has to get to work, and he forgets his very serious business belongings. What? Whoa. Okay, so the story obviously isn't very fleshed out, but these are the cartoon slides that get played at the start of the game. It starts with Catthew waking up, leaving his house for work because he is a home meowner, and then peak comedy with the long day factory meme. I was pretty proud of myself for the name that I gave the business that Catthew works at. Canonically, it's a printing company called Very Serious Ink Inc. No, seriously, hold your applause. You meet Mr. Big Dog, the boss, but he's not actually a dog, he is a cat. Catthew realizes that he's forgotten his very serious business belongings, and then you get transported into the world to begin the game. And on the topic of high sugar fruit-based beverages, I've talked a lot about game juice in my videos. I'm sure you know what it means by now because you've watched all of my videos and are very observant and smart and lovely people. The juice in this game is squishing Catthew up and down whenever he jumps or lands, and also squishing him a bit when he's walking and also rotating the sprite to make the movement feel more fun. It's pretty much the same thing I did for my roguelike prototype. Of course, there are also a ton of particle effects, even when pressing down the mouse cursor, because whimsy. Today I also created level 2, which is the coffee level. Funny story, I had been making myself some Yummers drinks using these coffee flavored drink sachets. I found out they were not coffee flavored, they were just instant coffee, and I ended up consuming way more caffeine than I thought I was. Anyway, there's not that much to talk about in this level. There's a lot of balls. It's just very physicsy, and instead of these spinning gears rotating the platforms, I have these buttons which are linked to the platforms instead. There's also an accidental softlock at the end of the level if you don't hit these balls with enough strength. So don't do that. Day 4 of the jam had me travelling to the doctors because I was not feline well. I was crushed by the horrors of reality and felt like I was going to explode for most waking hours this week. Neat. But for the time that I did have today, I added the single most important feature of my game. Not even of my game, literally any game ever. There is no game mechanic more essential than this. This audio is from the doorbell cat. I considered making the sound myself for the game, but I figured recording myself meowing on the internet maybe isn't the best career move. But I just gotta say, I flip-flopping love the doorbell cat. I am not ashamed to admit that I have doubled over and cried with laughter watching this video. It's so funny. It's a cat at a doorbell, and it goes meow. My ceiling keeps leaking. Oh my goodness. I got a big bucket, and there's like it's filling up, and it's ruining my recording. What the silly? There's also a 1 in 1,000 chance for a different audio file to play, courtesy of an actual professional computer person, Malamore. And apparently this scared some people who played the game, which makes sense because it is frightening.
Meow.
Thanks to my dad who suggested I added goobers to my game, which I ultimately ignored, but it does make sense why he'd pitch that. The goobers have completely taken over my brain at this point, and consequently my YouTube channel and all the videos that I post now. But at least it keeps this fun editing bit going. I created the rest of the sound effects today, mostly using this web tool called JSFXR. For the mouse cursor, I just recorded myself clicking my own mouse, but the most interesting effect I made was for holding and dragging this rope between the mouse cursor and whatever you're spinning. But actually making this sound was really weird. First, I recorded myself zipping and unzipping my backpack, and then I stitched them together to make this bizarre sounding continuous loop. Then in the game with some code, the sound gets louder whenever the rope gets longer or shorter, and will pitch up and down based on how quickly the rope is moving, which is how we get this sound effect that feels pretty responsive and realistic. It does feel a little bit out of place with the other chiptune sound effects in the game, but oh well, I have to take these things less seriously, despite what the very serious game jam tells me to do. By this point, I had a solid foundation for the game, but it definitely needed some more game. It needed more levels, because you could get through all the content in an apparently short 3 minutes. So for the next level, I didn't really introduce any new game mechanics, but it was more focused on the parkour and platforming side of this puzzle platformer. I think it'd be pretty interesting to see a speedrun, since even though there isn't any crazy movement tech, I'm sure there'd be ways to optimize runs for these levels. Especially this part, the intended route is to fall through the platforms, jump on the spinning wheel, make your way upwards, and hit the button on the way down. Then do that again to move on. But you can do this much faster by grabbing onto the green platforms and pulling yourself up. So there's a super secret speedrun hack for you. Level 4 was a mirror light laser puzzle thing. I've always wanted to make one of these, but don't think I've ever actually made one before. This required a bit of maths to make sure that the reflections worked in the right way, and then I made the buttons able to get activated by beams of light, and not just by balls and the player. There are no extremely difficult puzzles in this level, and honestly the whole game is pretty easy, but even as a concept, I think it works okayly. The final level is a one-screen collection of everything included in the game. I don't really know what I'm doing with this. I haven't designed a lot of puzzle games before, so this was a bit of a challenge for me, but I hope it's a nice cap-off to the game. Some other ideas that I had were rotating the entire stage, but that proved to be pretty annoying to design a decent level around and ran into a bunch of bugs. Or even something where spinning a gear changes your gravity. He was a fairy. If I had more time and willpower, perhaps these things could have made the final cut. But that's all I have to share from today. I still wasn't feline too well, so here's a little Tomodachi Life Catthew that I made. It is time to get funky. I love making music, it is so much fun, and this time was no different. Funky chords. Funky drums. Funky bass guitar. Silly cat synthesizer. And altogether it sounds like this. I also made a couple jingles for entering and exiting levels, which I think came together quite nicely. Making this background music taught me a new percussion instrument called goat toenails. Okay, and what you have to realize is that I myself am a funky lad. I love making music, I love listening to music, I love musical theatre. That's right, I'm a huge loser, if you didn't already pick up on that from my game dev YouTube channel. Today I listened to the entirety of Be More Chill and Sweeney Todd, two equally upbeat and joyous musicals, and they were both actually recommended to me by two friends. Thank you, friends. I would totally sing these songs for the video if it weren't for copyright, and also no one wants to hear my horrendous singing voice, but everyone does want a mandatory promotion of my album, so go listen to that. The final day of the game jam was just me designing the itch.io page and fixing any bugs, and then submitting my entry amongst thousands of fantastic games made by indie game devs from all around the world. I wish this segment of the video could be a bit more dramatic, with me uploading my game with only 4 seconds left to the deadline. But no, I guess life isn't always that serious.